All right, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak. Double honors to the apostles, and that was a great millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect. I'm the brother Inaf from GMS Dallas, and I got the elder Yatazak here with me as well. All right, today we're going to do continue the series that we're doing on Second Esdras. We're on chapter 7. We're actually on the second half, the second part of it. Last lesson we did verses 1 through 35, and we're gonna go all the way through verse 70. Abaratazah, we'll go all the way through verse 70 on this lesson. So Lord willing, is edifying, man. Basically, when you just kind of do like an overview of the first half of the chapter, because this is a longer chapter. All right, this is the angel of the Lord speaking to Ezra after he was fasting for a couple weeks, and each week the angel of the Lord was revealing more and more to Ezra. Right. So right now, basically, we're in the middle of this vision that he's receiving. Okay, and he just got the first chunk of ultimately what was going to happen in the times to come regarding Yahushua returning on the earth, okay, or coming. We'll say the first coming of Yahushua, and then ultimately, during the second coming, the restoration of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, Salakia Zaquan, I think your mic is rubbing on something. I don't know if it's
Oh,
coming
that
up.
was my shirt.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna continue here in verse 36. All right, it says, then said I, Abraham, then said I, this is Ezra speaking, right? He's kind of right, he's like writing from first person. Then said I, Abraham prayed first for the Sodomites, and Moses for the fathers that sinned in the wilderness, right? Because basically, the angel, he was talking a lot about judgment, right? He was talking about the wicked being cut off, right? And so, Ezra was kind of worried. He's like, man, well, you know, he was still in the mindset of, we know that we are a wicked, nation, and we've sinned as a nation. you know, is there any way, basically, he was trying to figure out, is there any way that Israel could be delivered, as a nation, right? And so he's bringing up these different examples. When it says Abraham prayed first for the Sodomites, it's referencing in Genesis, when I think it's like chapter 16, when Abraham, he was asking the angel of the Lord, Lord, because the angel of the Lord said, hey, look, I'm gonna destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities. Abraham knew that Lot was in those cities. Matter of fact, let's get that in I think is it First Peter, Second Peter. We're talking about
Right,
Lot.
righteous lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because he was really the only one that really made it out.
Right.
Even as, what I'm saying, he was the only man that made it out. We'll say it like that, right?
Yep. And
Uh
then you'll call a man by the city that he lived in. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
So the Lot wasn't actually a sodomite, as in a homosexual. He was a
mhm,
sodomite because that's the land he was living in. You know what I'm saying? So his wife, his daughters were all sodomites because they lived in that land, not because they were depraved sexually.
mhm. Yeah. Uh just okay. I was like, why isn't it coming up? Second Peter 2. All right. And man, this
Uh,
is good.
get that word, yeah, get that word for just.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is Second Peter 2 and 4. It says, for the most high spared not the angels that sinned. All right, this is talking about the sons of God, okay, but cast them down to hell. All right, ultimately we're in these bodies where we're subject to vanity, right? Which
Yep.
Ezra
Brought
will.
brought brought to a lower state.
That's right. Um, and it's going to get touched on in the remainder of this in Second Ezra 7. All right, and deliver them into chains of darkness. Right, those chains of darkness is us, being in this flesh. Okay,
Hmm.
it says to be reserved unto judgment. See, we're subject to be judged. Okay, and so um, it
Yeah, because
says,
when we broke the covenant, when we broke the covenant, you know what I'm saying, we had to pay. You know what I'm saying? And to be redeemed from that law is why Yahweh sent Yahweh Shai. You know what I'm saying? You got it.
that's right. It says, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person. Okay, because why was he the eighth person? He had his sons, okay, and then their wives, and then his wife. So four couples, that's eight, right? So Noah, his sons, and their wives, it's eight people. It says, a preacher of righteousness bringing the flood upon the world of the ungodly, right? So all of the wicked got judged during the flood, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, right? The neighboring cities, they got rained down on fire from heaven, right? It says making them an example or ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. Okay, that's the reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. Fire and brimstone was rained down from on high. Okay, because the Lord said, look, these motherfuckers are wicked. They got to get judged, right? So people you would think that they would learn from that. Okay, but they say, oh, it was a long time ago, so we don't have to worry about that, right?
Man.
It says, and delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. So that was the point, right? Basically, Lot was the only one that was right in that in those cities. And Abraham knew that Lot was in there, and he was like, damn, maybe there's somebody else. Maybe there's somebody else in there. They're like, you know what I mean? That's kind of, that's on point.
Yeah,
But
Lot
Lot
didn't
was the
have
only
no
one.
count.
Yeah, no, he was the only one. Lot was the only one, literally.
Get that word for just.
Right. Uh,
Yeah, Lot was. I would say Lot didn't have no count. He was solo.
right. hmm Yeah, you saw how the niggas reacted when he took in some new guy. They were angels, but when he took in some new guests,
Yeah.
what I'm saying? They said, "No, we don't want your virgin daughters. We want to lay with the men." So
Ugh,
that place had to go. You know, that word for
just
just,
tacky.
yeah, yeah, facts. That word for just is dikaios, and it says righteous, right, observing divine laws.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So that's what let you know that when it says just Lot, it's talking about his character. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
He was a just man. Now he was the only man that made it out of there, but it was because of his righteousness, not because he was the only man.
Right. Exactly.
You got it.
It says, yep, it says, in a wide sense, upright, righteous, virtuous, keeping the commandments of the Most High. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So ultimately, Lot was like, look, nah, like I'm not with that. I'm not with you wicked niggas. Like I'm not dealing with that. Okay. And he was vexed, like how we vexed. Okay. He was vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. Okay. The way that they lived their lives was like repulsive, you know, talking about the Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So that's what it says when it says he prayed for the Sodom. He didn't pray for the wicked demons in Sodom. He said, peradventure, there may be one or two, like, 50 righteous men. He started at 50, then he went down to 45, 40,
Mhm.
peradventure, right? That's what he's praying, who he's praying for, right? And then to give some more examples, back in Second Ezra 7, verse 37. All right, this says Jesus again, which this is another example that we use because we normally go to the one in Acts 7 with Stephen, he uses he brings up Joshua, but it says Jesus in there. I can't remember what verse it is, but you know what I mean, right? That example,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen was going into the history, and it
That's
says Jesus. It's
Acts
Acts chapter
7.
7. Yeah, it's Acts chapter
Yeah.
7. I don't know which verse, but it's in there. And and this is another example of that. Okay. Because this was translated into English from the Latin and the Greek. Okay. And the Hebrew too, where it was available, but most of the manuscripts that were widely copied at the time, was translated from Latin and Greek, right? So it's gonna have that transliterated name in there, but we know that this is talking about Joshua in the Old Testament, right? So it says, and Joshua, I'm gonna just read it properly. And Joshua, after after Abraham, prayed for Israel in the time of Achan, because Achan was the dude that saw the Babylonish garment, okay, and he took it, and it was an accursed thing unto Israel, and Israel was getting judged. That whole deal in the book of Joshua. Lord, Joshua prayed, what I'm saying? He prayed to the Lord like for Israel during that time. For anybody else that may have been in that mindset, right? To get right. And verse 38 says, and Samuel and David for the destruction, and Solomon for them that should come to the sanctuary. In First Kings chapter 8, Solomon prays to the Lord. In Second Samuel, David was praying to the Lord. You know what I mean? Samuel, of course, prayed to the Most High. Okay, all right, praying for Israel's strength. To keep the faith. Okay, and it says, and now this one here, it says Elias, but this is talking about Elijah the prophet. Okay, uh, verse 39, and Elijah or Elias for those that received rain, and for the dead that he might live, because Elijah raised an individual from the dead, and he also during the time of who was looking it up, what was it at? And I think it was First Kings 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
First Kings, First Kings 17, right? The Lord told Elijah um to pray, that there be no water, right? According to the word of the Lord. Okay, and there was a drought. When you read this chapter, there was a drought, and the Lord told him, "Hey, go to this specific brook, and even though there's not going to be no rain, you can drink the water from this brook, and you'll be good." And this is the same chapter where the ravens brought him, food, so he was good. Talking about Elijah, where it says here, Elijah the Tishbite and Elias. This is the same, talking about Elijah. Okay. Okay, Elijah, which in the Hebrew, I believe is Alayah. Um, yeah, yeah, Alayah. Okay, which is a compound word. Okay, Allah, which means God. Yah, my God is Yahweh, basically is what that means, right? Um, that's that example, right? So Ezra is recounting all these, and this is why, man, Christians, plantation Christians, anti-Messiah Christians don't get our respect, because if you don't know about each of these accounts, can you really say that you read the Bible and that you know what I mean, that you believe in the Bible and you don't know these people?
Yeah, I
You
would say
even
what it
got some.
says. What
Mhm.
it say? With all thy getting, get understanding. They
Right.
don't get the understanding. You see, that's what I said. You can read all day. I don't. I read the book back and forth, and they could quote scriptures, do all that. They just don't understand it.
Right. Con.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they don't, yeah, they quote the same four scriptures with the wrong breakdown.
yeah. That's what I
And they
say.
can't even
I was you can give me the instruction manual to fly a plane. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I can read it, but until I actually fly a plane, you know what I'm saying? It's just something I read. You know what I'm saying? I can't expound on it. Yeah, I read it, but that's what I'm saying. Put my ass in the cockpit and see what happens. When you put their ass in the cockpit, they crash and burn every time.
That's right. That's right. You know, so the Lord didn't give them understanding anyway. So they can't sing that song. They all out of key and off tune. Imagine you looking at sheet music, and you got a violin, or you in front of a piano, and you got a whole crowd of people, and you ain't never played a piano before. You don't know shit about music theory. You know what I'm saying? How can you expect to play that song? All right. So
Yeah,
step to the side.
but you cussing out the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, you cursing out the performers. You like, no, that ain't how you play it. You in the wrong key. Okay, nigga, you play it then. And then they say, okay. And they fumble the
Yeah,
back, you know?
man,
But
stinking it
anyway,
up.
right, you know. So it says in verse 39, we read that already. Verse 40, all right, this says and Hezekiah, this is talking about Hezekiah. Again, these names were transliterated. Let me get the definition of transliteration real quick. I don't want to
Mhm.
go too fast. Transliteration. Okay. The definition of transliteration: the process of writing uh, or printing a letter or word using the closest corresponding letters of a alphabet or script. Um, Also, a letter or word written or printed in the closest corresponding letters of an alphabet. So basically, when you have different alphabets, and I think I had a picture. I'm a visual learner. Okay, you have different alphabets on the right hand side. This is an Arabic language, right? If you're translating the meaning of that word into another language, then you're going to say what it means. A transliteration is, this is the word, right? This is the Arabic word for Allah, right? So this is how you would spell it using English letters, okay? But what is the meaning of Allah in Arabic? It means God, right? Um,
Mhm.
which Arabic is, Hebrew is the language that Arabic stems from. Majority of the words are similar, but that's the difference between transliteration. So whenever you read in these words, you're like, damn, why is it spelled like this? Like, because basically it was translated from Greek, then from Greek to Latin. Okay, then the names are transliterated because they're not going to write out, the definition of a name. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. It's just
we
like
don't call.
it's somewhere in the apocrypha. I can't think of where it's at, but it say Esau, but it's talking about Isaiah.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Isaiah is Esau in the apocrypha. Just like you
Mm-hmm.
say, Hezekiah is
Mm-hmm.
Ezekias. So
Right.
yeah. You got to be in the spirit to point that out.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just for anybody. But this is a count in Isaiah 30, what we say, 36, right?
Hmm.
36. You read this chapter, you can read this whole chapter from top to bottom, right? And so these are all points that Ezra was bringing up, like, hey, like, you know we were in trouble in the time past, and large groups of people um were prayed for by the righteous, you know and they were delivered. So with that point in mind, keep that point in mind, because this is why he said all of this in verse 41. It says, even so now, seeing corruption is grown up and wickedness is increased, and the righteous have prayed for the ungodly. Wherefore shall it not be so now also? Because you got to remember, this was the first time that Israel was completely removed from the prompt, like completely removed from the land since the Lord uh delivered us into the Holy Land. At this time, this was like being taken out of the land, and heathen living in it was like the absolute worst case scenario. Like, you got to think, we never, at the time of the construction of the first temple, it was not anybody's expectation that the temple was going to be destroyed. Again, this was during the time where, in order for your sins to be forgiven, right, it was, the practice was the sacrificial law. How they gonna burn sacrifices to the, you know what I mean, to the Lord and everything, when the Ark of the Covenant's gone. We had that since we was in the wilderness, right? You know, the temple destroyed. So it was like a whole bunch of questions, like, now what? You know what I mean? Like, can we just, can, is there a way to get back? Is what Ezra was trying to figure out, right? And then this is the answer, verse 42. Okay, and this is where we're this is the part of the chapter that we bring out the most when we're on the highways and byways, because this is what really is about to, this is what's been happening. This really is why there's going to be so much turmoil on the earth. Okay, Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30 and 7. Okay, so this is second Ezra 7 and 42. It says, and he answered me and said, this present life is not the end where much glory doeth abide. Therefore have they prayed for the weak. Meaning, this current life that we're in right now, this ain't the time to win. This is not the life that we're going to be winning in. Okay, when you go to Ezra, I'm sorry, Ezekiel. All right, when the Lord told Ezekiel to eat the roll, right? The little, I'll read it real quick. This is Ezekiel 2 and 9. Okay, it says, and when I looked, behold, an hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without. This is talking about the scriptures, all right? Prophecies. Okay. It says, and there was written therein lamentations and mourning and woe. Okay. So this is a precept, Ezekiel 2 and 10, the second Ezra 7 and 42. Okay. This time, this lifetime that we're in is not the time that we're gonna be rejoicing like that. That's why we're catching hell in general. Okay, and everything, like in this life, in this world, we're not gonna win. You're not gonna win, bro. You're not gonna like achieve your wildest dreams, on the carnal level and on this side. Of course we fight, and we put as much energy as we can, what I'm saying, to improve our situations and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that's just what it is. You're not going to have access to the best food, the best women, the best this and that. You know what I mean? Your children are going to be susceptible to all this bullshit, because guess what? We are in Babylon the Great. Okay. So, but at that time, they were praying, okay, to restore a little bit of, comfort to Israel at various different times, right? And but this is the fact of the matter in verse 43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, right? So all of this, Israel suffering, and then, niggas getting judged, that cycle, okay, is gonna come to a final climax, okay, during the day of doom, okay, which is the return of Yahweh when he comes back in the chariots. Okay, World War III is gonna be in full effect. The MOTB is gonna be in full effect, Revelation 13, right? So let me get a precept. And Baba Kwasha, stop me, Zaquan, if you got anything. But Daniel 12. All right. And this is another example. Okay, the time of the I didn't even know that I was going to say this. The time of the end. Okay, this is why everything is not going to go according to plan on a carnal level on this side. Okay, because one of the curses, man. This place is going to get burnt up. Always remember that. Anytime your check engine light come on, or you get some type of affliction, ailment, your woman just randomly, spontaneously got demons on her, or some crazy shit happens. Well, we are in the end times, so we got to
Mm-hmm.
be ready. So this says Daniel 12:1, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. Michael is, angel of the Lord, right? And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation. Okay, so you think it's bad now? It's about to get way worse.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Look at how Jake's selling out, and we ain't even got to the bad part yet. You know what I'm saying? So you already know that the closer we get to the end, the more unnerved they're gonna be. Jake haven't even got to the point to where things have been taken away from us and all that. Jake already selling out. So just imagine
Mhm.
when Esau, well, imagine when Yahweh Shem Yahushai apply pressure. You see, just like that in Luke 21 and 25, we get that all the time. I would say the Lord is gonna put you in a position to where you can only choose him or Esau. And that's what the hour of temptation is all about. It's leading up to that. The Lord is the ultimate physician that's gonna administer the medicine. You see, when you go into that, it's talk about Esau forcing the chip on everybody, but the Lord is forcing that on everybody and using Esau to do it, and He's gonna use Yahushua to deliver His chosen from the hour of temptation. So you got all these different things going on prophetically, and Jake is doing what they doing. You know, you got it.
Con. It says, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.
You see now, Jake not telling their congregation that. They telling the congregation what they got plans to do. We gonna get a farm. We gonna do this. We gonna get some land. We gonna build a school. We gonna do all these different things. You're not gonna be able to do all that. I mean, you can try to give yourself something to do, but that's what I'm saying. Yahweh instructed us to store up our treasures in heaven because this is about to be destroyed.
That's
Period.
right.
You got
Yeah. So whatever you build, be ready to give that shit up. Be ready to watch it be taken away from you. You know what I mean? At any moment. And you guess what? If you even think about switching, losing faith or switching sides, that's on you. Be careful with your
it.
thoughts.
Yeah. Jake trying to rebuild a house of Saul.
Right. Okay. And so, that's really the point, right? Because it talks about the time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation. That's talking about Jacob's trouble. Okay. And so when you go back here, the day of doom it shall be the end of this time. That's that day of trouble. Okay. It says, and the beginning of the immortality for to come. Okay, because at the same time where people are going to be getting judged, right, heavily on a high level, people are going to be getting judged left and right, and a lot of people are going to be getting put to death. Okay, after they're getting judged, um, by the famine, by the sword, by the pestilence. Matter of fact, let me get a precept on that real quick. Okay, which we already know. Isaiah 6 is one. I think there's one in Jeremiah 15. Yeah, yeah, here we go. Jeremiah 16. It's all over the scriptures, man. I want to see if there's one in
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel that I was looking for. Woo. Okay, let's get this one. Let's get this one. Let's switch it up. All right, this is Ezekiel chapter 20. I'm sorry, chapter 14. And I'm gonna start at verse 19. The point is in verse 21. It says Ezekiel 14 and 19. Or if I send a pestilence into that land and pour out my fury upon it in blood to cut from it man and beast, though Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, and this actually ties in perfectly with what Ezra was asking. Though Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it. See, these were all righteous men. These were all men that did right by Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay, and guess what? They can't. Their prayers, if when it's time for you to get judged, okay, when it's time for the kingdom of heaven to be ushered in, a nigga can't make it on a chariot, man. Okay, so if you in Babylon the Great, you gotta go. If you're not delivered, right? So it says, though Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, they shall deliver neither son nor daughter. Right? You're not gonna be talking about even these men, great men, Noah, Daniel, Job, coming back, whoever they are in the spirit, right? They're not going to be able to even save their own sons or their own daughter. It says they shall but deliver their own souls by their righteousness. You see, you got to think like if your son or your daughter is wicked, okay, and they not under you, you know what I mean? You can't let your conscience condemn you. That's how much you gotta love Yahweh Shah. You see, to understand like, okay, the Lord can raise up my son and my daughter. And then once you get past that, anybody else that gets put to death is like, whatever, because really your son and your daughter, that's the fruit of your body. So it's like, you want to see them do well,
Yep. And
right?
with us being descendants of Abraham, we've been given that faith. You know what I'm saying? Abraham knew that Isaac was gonna be brought back if the Lord asked him to sacrifice him. So that's where we get that example. You know, here it is. The Lord told Abraham that Isaac was gonna be the seed that was gonna be his only begotten. But then he asked him to sacrifice him. But through faith, Abraham understood that, well, if the Lord want him, he gonna give it back to me. That's all. That's got to be what it is. He promised me that this was gonna be my only begotten son before he asked me to sacrifice him. So I'm gonna roll with the faith that he gonna give him back to me.
That's right.
You got it.
It says verse 21, excuse me, chapter 14, verse 21. Here's the point. For thus saith Yahweh Shem Yahushai, how much more when I send my four sore judgments upon Jerusalem. You see, this is talking about Israel, man. This is why Esau wants to have this bland, big ass gray area of basically nothing about the Old Testament really matters anymore because it either came to pass already or when the Lord came on the scene, he changed it. This is why they don't want so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans to identify themselves with the nation of Israel. Okay, so that way, ultimately, when the judgment does come, you're gonna be caught off guard. Okay, the sword and the famine and the noisome beast and the pestilence to cut off from it man and beast. You see that? And this happened already, man. Like, and it's gonna happen again, of course. This happened already in the past. Okay, we were taken out of our land. So you think the Lord can't do this again, right? So going back here, that was the point, the day of doom, right? And then it says, the day of doom shall be the end of this time, verse 43, back in 2nd Ezra 7, and the beginning of the immortality for it to come, wherein corruption is past. Okay. Intemperance, and the corruption is these corruptible flesh bodies. Okay, these mortal bodies that die, okay, that are subject to sin, subject to transgression of the law. We're going to get new bodies pursuant to Ezekiel 36. All right. It says intemperance is at an end, and also Jeremiah 32, I believe. Intemperance is at an end. Infidelity which is faithlessness, because fidel means faith, right?
Mhm.
So infidelity is cut off. All right, faithlessness, righteousness is grown, and truth is sprung up. Okay, so it was already declared 2,500 years ago that these things are going to be cut off: faithlessness, intemperance, right, wickedness, and the truth is gonna reign. Verse 45: Then shall no man be able to save him that is destroyed, nor to oppress him that hath gotten the victory.
That's what I said. Gotten the victory over what? The
Mm,
beast, his image, and his mark.
hmm
That's the only way you're gonna get delivered, man. See, you have to be an Israelite that was predestined to be delivered from the beast, his image, and his mark, which is a self-proclaimed white man in this system that he's running. You got to prove that you down with it by letting him put his imprinted microchip in you, in your hands or in your forehead. That's what it's all about. Go ahead.
That's right. And this is the verse that the elder was quoting right here, Revelation 15 and 2. For those taking notes, which you should be taking notes, Revelation 15 and 2. We're going to go back to 2nd Ezra 7. And the reason why we're quoting a lot of these scriptures, because we'd be here for hours if we just read through everything, every chapter. We're quoting them. We're going reading certain ones, but we're quoting other ones so that way you can write them down and go back over them later. Okay. But continuing on back in 2nd Ezra 7 and verse 46, I answered then and said, This is my first and last saying, that it had been better. So basically, this is Ezra speaking again, or responding. It had been better not to have given the earth unto Adam, or else when it was given him, to have restrained him from sinning. Because Ezra understood that basically they're in the worst case scenario. Even at that time, they understood. Like, he was like, man, he couldn't even imagine it getting any worse than it was at that time. But look at it now; it's even worse, right? But even back then, he understood. Well, damn, really, this started from Adam and Eve in the garden, and the transgression and the fall of Adam ultimately led to all of this madness in the earth, right? And he was like trying to figure out, like, man, don't you think it would have been better if Adam didn't have dominion over the earth, if it was some other way? Okay, but this is the Lord's movie. This goes back to predestination. Okay, and basically Ezra was kind of probing around to kind of understand the movie, because he was at that time, he was still, I mean, we're in the movie too, but you get what I mean, like, we're at the end of the movie. So he was looking at it from the middle part. It was like, man, like, how we gonna come out of this, right? Well, now we know how, right? It says in verse 47, for what profit is it for men now in this present time to live in heaviness, and after death to look for punishment, right? Because he knew that, obviously, you come back, in the next life, you know what I mean? And if if all of these things that were just said, um, you know, um, the day of doom and all these different things was going to come to pass, right? And much glory is not going to abide in this time. Well, when is it going to come? How is it going to come in? Like, why are we going through all of this, right? What's the point, right? And this is your favorite verse, verse 48. Make sure everything's still good. Okay. Verse 48, it says, O thou Adam, what hast thou done? For though it was thou that sinned, thou art not fallen alone, but we all that come of thee.
Man, that's what I'm saying. And having that thought process. Yeah, having that thought process. When you ask Adam, man, why did you do that? What did you do? Through the spirit, you're gonna appreciate Yahushua even more because he didn't fall. You
Right.
know, it makes you appreciate Yahushua that much more when you see how Adam fell, when you see how Solomon fell, because both of them were given the kingdom. all the work was already done, and they were just placed there to rule. But Yahweh fought for it. You see, that's why his kingdom is gonna last forever. You got it.
Right. This is First Corinthians 15 and 20. But now, see, and this was something that Ezra did not have at that time. He didn't have the detail of how things was going to play out, right? But now we know how things came to be, to where we have, we have hope, right, in being redeemed with Yahweh Shemiah Shai. All right, this is First Corinthians 15 and 20. But now is Mashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept, meaning the first fruits, meaning he's the first one that is going to be resurrected and transformed and be perfected with a new body. Because Yahweh Shai is never going to die again. When he got resurrected, he wasn't resurrected into a normal body. He was resurrected with that new body. Okay. He got that new body when he was resurrected. Okay. It wasn't
I want
like
to say,
mhm.
in that chapter in the NLT, it goes into that new body not being able to die. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm,
he was the first. He was the first one to get it. You
that's
got it.
right. It says verse 21, for since by man came death, that specific man was Adam.
Hmm.
Okay. By man came also the resurrection of the dead. That same man in the spirit, that same spirit, when Yahweh came back, he was Adam coming back in the reincarnation, right? And he is the one that fulfilled, his lot of ultimately being the sacrifice that was needed for us to um, be able to achieve that same glory that he received. Okay,
Hmm.
and says, for as, and this is the point in verse 22, for as in Adam all die, even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. And this is where anti-Messiah Christians try to wiggle their way in and say, look, see, it says all. But did all believe in Yahweh Shai?
Nope.
See, it's easier to be born of somebody. It's easier to exist, because if you exist, you're a seed of Adam, right? Because the line came through Noah. Well, Adam was, yeah, the line came through Noah. So Noah and his sons were the only ones that made it after the flood. So if you exist on this earth, you are a child of Adam, essentially, right? Like lineage wise. But you got to be a follower and a believer in Yahweh Shai to be made alive. So you got to believe in Yahweh Shai. Everybody ain't going to fall into that category.
Yeah, I want to say
Okay.
Noah had brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It tell you all the men of the it tell you all the men of the Lord had brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham had brothers. Isaac had a brother. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So
Yep.
if you wasn't of that chosen line, you just wasn't of that chosen line. You see,
Right.
it is what it is.
Con. You see? And so going back here to Second Ezra 7 and verse uh 50, right? Well, hold on. I'm sorry, verse 49. Verse 49 says, for what profit is it unto us if there be promised us an immortal time, whereas we have done the works that bring death? See, because Ezra's mindset was still like he I'm trying to think how to explain it. At the time, the works of the law, the performing of the works of the law was really the only way to be close to the Lord, right? And of course, fulfilling the fruits of the spirit is really what obviously we should be focusing on, and having charity and faith amongst each other. Okay. Um, but at that time, Yahweh Shai hadn't come back yet. So the understanding of being righteous was pretty much keeping the law, right? Now we understand that through faith in Yahweh Shai, okay, that's the way. That's the direct path to immortality. Okay, because the works that we do in the flesh is always uh be corrupt because we're in this corruptible flesh. And that's really what Second Ezra 15 talks about when you read down, starting at like, we really, you can tell you where we left off and then read down all the way through like verses 55. But we're not going to get all the way through that. We're just going to just quote it and keep going. All right. It says, verse 50, it says, and that there is promised us an everlasting hope, whereas ourselves, being most wicked, are made vain. So basically, Ezra was looking at it like an unachievable goal, like basically like how it is unachievable to keep the law. Like when you go in fullness, I mean, when you go in Acts 15 and when I don't know what's going on, spelled it wrong. 10, just for an example, Acts 15 and 10, right? The council, it says Acts 15 and 10, this is Peter speaking. All right. Now therefore, why tempt ye the Most High to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? Okay, the yoke being the yoke of fulfilling the law. I'm talking about the yoke of being perfect in the law and never transgressing the law from day one. Okay, and you can't really do that. And specifically here, it was a debate about circumcision. If you don't get circumcised, then you're not going to be able to enter into the kingdom. But really, in general, like our fathers were not able to bear the yoke of the law. Okay. And that's why, in verse 11, it says, but we believe that through the grace of the Lord is Yahweh Shai, the grace of the Lord, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, we shall be saved. Right. So through the grace of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and the faith that we have in him, that's the way. Okay. Not the workings of the law. And the scriptures talk about that all over. Right. And um, so Ezra was going to continue on this point, but that's the answer. Okay. Now we have that answer. Verse 51, it says, and that there are laid up for us dwellings of health and safety, whereas we have lived wickedly, and that the glory of the Most High is kept to defend them which have led a weary life, whereas we have walked in the most wicked ways of all, and that there should be showed a paradise whose fruit endureth forever, wherein is security and medicine, since we shall not enter into it. See, he didn't. He was like, okay, we understand the promises. He understood the promises, like Deuteronomy 28, the first 15 verses is cool. You know what I mean? But we never attained to that, and he knew at that point. He's like, look, we've been around. We never gonna obtain to that. We failed the mission. We failed the mission. We had the opportunity, and we failed. So now, how can we be redeemed? Right? That was his standpoint. He understood that a promise was made of the ability to enter it, but he was like, how? How can we do it? Look how through we are, right? And that was his question, right? So verse 54 says, for we have walked in unpleasant places. Verse 55, and that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars. He's still asking the same question. How is this possible, right? How is it that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars, whereas our faces shall be blacker than darkness? Okay. For while we lived and committed iniquity, we considered not that we should begin to suffer for it after death.
Woo!
See? You see that? So he understood that even after death, you can still get judged. You can still get judged, and you will. Okay. Looking for a precept here. Judgment.
Man.
You know,
The angel said, man, you're gonna have to fight. That's
right.
that's all it is. That's what I'm saying. If the Lord is with you, who can be against you? See, we get these the comfort. You see, because Esdras was asking all these questions and he was all fucked up, but everything was explained to him. He just had to wrap his mind around it. Same thing with us. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same thing with us. You got it.
Con. Yeah, I was looking for where it talks about the judgment is gonna come, after life. Um, oh, okay, this is in Second Ezra as well. Second Ezra was 14, real quick. Second Ezra 14, where it says, "After death shall the judgment come."
Mhm.
Damn, what just happened? I need my apocrypha, man. What's going on? Where my apocrypha at? Some bullshit. Hold on. I think I
That's
had
why
it
I
right
just
here.
quoted.
Yeah, yeah, Con. Well, I got it right here. I don't know what happened. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, Second Ezra was 14. All right, and verse 35. All right, it says, "For after death, shall the judgment come, when we shall live again." See that?
Mhm.
That's
Yep, Job
reoccurring.
mentioned that in chapter 14.
Right. That's the one I thought it was in Job, but this is the one that pulled up. Maybe it was worded a little different, you know.
Yeah, the
Um,
one in Job 14 it says, after death shall man live again. This word is similar to it, but yeah, it's Job 14 if you want to pull it.
Con. Yeah, we'll just quote it, Job chapter 14, right? And it
Hmm.
says, "After death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again, and then shall the names of the righteous uh be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared." Okay. So with that understanding, going back here to chapter 7 and verse 56, that's the answer to these questions, right? Verse 57, "And he answered, then answered he me and said, This is the condition of the battle." Look, like, this is the shit that you're gonna have to go through. This is just the scenario that we're in.
Yep.
Okay. "Which man that is born upon the earth shall fight." We all going through it. We all feel the same way. You know what I mean? About this, catching hell and suffering in this world. We all want the same thing, right? To be delivered from this. It says that if he be overcome, he shall suffer as thou hast said. But if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing I say. So we're fighting for the victory, man. Okay.
Hmm.
It says, "For this is the life whereof Moses spake unto the people while he lived, saying, choose thee life, that thou mayest live." Right? And I'm not exactly sure which chapter that was, um, but I know it says it elsewhere too. You know what I'm saying? It says in multiple places. Choose the Most High, and oh, matter of fact, okay, I'll get one real quick. Um, if you don't choose life, what is going to happen? You're going to die, right? So Proverbs 8, okay, Proverbs 8, the last verse, two verses. It says, Proverbs 8 and 35, "For whoso findeth me," this is talking about wisdom, "for whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul, and all they that hate me love death." See that? So that's a precept.
Death
Okay.
lover.
Right, that's it. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's just how it is. It's a simple equation. Niggas try to complicate things. Esau try to confuse you into
Mm-mm.
gray area into you into confusion, okay, which is ultimately going to lead you and keep you in the darkness. We cutting it straight, okay? It's up
Yep.
to you how you take it.
In Second Timothy, where it says, "Study to show thyself approved." When you get rightly dividing the word of truth, one of the definitions is to make straight. You see,
Hmm.
breaking down strongholds. You got all these guys. You got all these guys with their own private interpretation of the scriptures that's inaccurate as all get out. And it's our job through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah to say, nah, ho ass nigga, it's the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm. Facts. See him.
Yeah, nah, nigga, it's only Israel. Get your
Mm-hmm.
funky ass out of here. Go ahead.
Yep. Gone. All right. Verse 60. Nevertheless, they believe not him, nor yet the prophets after him, nor me, which have spoken unto him. See, unbelievers. That's why they got judged. Our people, we 40 years in the wilderness, nobody over 20 made it except for Joshua and Caleb. Right? Verse 61. That there should be that there should not be such heaviness in their destruction. Like, yeah, like, listen, don't worry about them so much. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Don't worry about them so much, because guess what? There are some good that are going to be delivered, right? Uh, there shall not be such heaviness in their destruction as shall be joy over them that are persuaded unto salvation. You
That's what I'm
think only
saying. Worry about those that's like-minded. You know what I'm
con,
saying? If the Lord tell you he gonna kill 2/3 of Israel, don't worry about them. They already cooked. You know what I'm saying? But those that have that like mind, you cleave unto them. Go ahead.
yeah. Scripture say, remember Lot's wife. Lot. He was like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here. He knew that niggas was wicked. His wife, she looked back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that what if came in her head, and she didn't make it. Right? It
She
says, I
fumbled the
answered.
bag.
Yep, exactly. She super fumbled. You know what I'm saying? But it was all, it was all the will of the Lord, right? It says, I answered then and said, I know, Lord, that the Most High is called merciful, in that he has mercy upon them that are not yet come into the world, and upon those also that turn to his law, and that he is patient and long suffering, and long suffereth those that have sinned as his creatures, and that he is bountiful, for he is ready to give where it needeth, and that he is of great mercy, for he multiplieth more and more mercies to them that are present and that are past, and also to them which are come, which all of this is true. It says, for if he shall not multiply his mercies, the world would not continue with them that inherit therein, which that's also true. That's in Lamentations, is it chapter 3? Um, Lamentations 3, uh, uh, yeah, verse 22. It says, it is of Yahweh Shem Yahshua's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. Okay, so he's on point with this, what Ezra was saying here,
Yeah, and
right?
that's another thing. When it come to these Christians, these anti-Christians, the real anti-Christians,
Right.
if the Lord chose Israel and he don't change his mind, why the fuck do we have to listen to you? Why do we have to argue with you? We don't.
We
That's what I'm
don't.
saying. The Lord don't change his mind and he chose Israel. Fuck off, loser.
Right. Yeah. If you as an anti-Messiah Christian believed wholeheartedly that we're wrong, why do you care? You shouldn't care, right? But it's something in us, that messes with them. Oh, and they try to use the God. Well, we're just trying to save. We're just trying to save unsaved souls, because we just know that you guys are lost.
That ain't
You
even
guys are
up to you.
lost.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
what
what
I'm
I'm saying?
saying. I was saying you up here smoking cigarettes trying to save somebody.
Out of there. Out of there, man. It's
Yeah, a
okay.
nigga blowing cigarettes, smoking your face, calling you a nigga, but he gonna save
Yeah. Well, it's okay. They're gonna get a
you.
rude
Yeah.
awakening. That's why they're cheering on. They want Babylon the Great to continue to to thrive. You know what I'm saying? These what you call them, Christian nationalists. Okay, they want America to make it, and you got a lot of so-called Negroes and a lot of Latinos, so-called Latinos and Native Americans too, in that category, that do not want to see Babylon the Great, America, get destroyed. Even Israelites that know that they're Israelites, they don't want to see Babylon the Great get destroyed. They're not
Well, that's
hasty.
too bad.
Yeah, yeah. So they're all gonna be disappointed, man. Okay,
Too bad, so sad.
that's right. Okay, so going back here, verse 67, for if he shall not multiply his mercies, the world would not continue with them that inherit therein. And he pardoneth,
That's
excuse me,
just like the Lord said. That's just like Yahweh Shah saying that it ain't gonna be no flesh to be saved. This continues on.
right, that's it. That's it. That's the precept. It says, verse 68, and he pardoneth, for if he did not, so of uh for if he did not so of his goodness, that they which have committed iniquities might be eased of them, the 10,000th part of men should not remain living. Like nobody is just enough to say, well, I haven't transgressed your laws, because we know the wages of sin is death, right? So nobody would be saved if it wasn't for his goodness. So he knew, like Ezra, I'm talking about, he knew, like, okay, well, at least we're still alive. We're still alive for a reason, you know. And if it wasn't so, then nobody would, nobody would be alive, right? Verse 669, it says, and being judged, if he should not forgive them that are cured with his word, uh, and put out the multitude of contentions, all right, those that rebel against him, right? That there should be very few left, peradventure, in an innumerable multitude. Okay, because Ezra note, like, if the Lord exacted everybody at once of the judgment that they were owed, bro, there wouldn't be nobody. There wouldn't be nobody left.
Yep, that's what David was saying. If you gonna count our sins against us, who gonna live?
You know what I'm saying? Nobody. The answer is nobody.
Planet, yeah, planet gonna be empty.
Empty, bro. It's gonna be hella deer and flowers. The earth gonna be clean as a motherfucker.
That's what I'm saying. It's gonna look like Genesis before man was created.
Mm-hmm.
Days 1 through 4. Yeah, going into day 5 when man was created. That's what I'm saying. When everything was already created before man got here. So when man came out of the waters, he was looking around like, "Oh shit, this is dope." Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I'm saying. If sin was counted against us, it wouldn't be nobody coming up out the water.
Man. Well, that's, as a matter of fact, that's the perfect scripture to end it off on. Blessed is
Good.
he who, what does it say? His sins are not imputed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, imputed, if I can, I think it's imputeth. Let's see.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
yes, yeah, that's how it's worded. Yeah. It's in,
Boy,
gosh.
this nigga boiled a brisket. Boy, that's the whitest shit I ever seen.
You
Damn.
know, so nah, I ain't gonna lie. I got a guilty confession. I boiled some chicken for the first time,
Oh boy.
and that shit was so good. Like
I
the
mean,
broth.
shit. The nigga got a restaurant selling boiled brisket, so somebody like it.
Yeah,
I'm just a smoke guy.
right. To each his own. This is the scripture here. We'll close it off on this.
God.
Psalm 32:1. It says, blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven and whose sin is covered. Okay. I'll get that word covered real quick. All right, because Yahweh said, individuals that act like they know it all, they don't have no cloak, they don't have no covering for their sin. The This word here is kasa. Strong's number is H3680. All right, to cover, conceal, to hide. Okay, because the scriptures talk about how the Lord blocks out the iniquity of the elect. So ultimately, our shortcomings are hidden, right? And so it says, blessed is he, okay, whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered or hidden. Blessed is the man unto whom Yahweh Bashem Yahushua imputeth not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile.
That's what I'm saying. And those spirits with no guile were predestined. You know what I'm saying? Though the Lord already decided who was going to be in the no guile pile before the creation.
Con.
You got it.
Yeah, I'll just get that word imputeth real quick. That word for impute or imputeth is chasab. Oh, excuse me, chashab. All right, which says to esteem, calculate, invent, to charge, impute, or reckon, like you charged with a what's it called? A crime. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
sins punishable by death. We would all be gone.
Right. So man, hey, we better have more, you know, um gratitude towards Yahweh Bashem Shai, man, for the position that we're in, because it's not owed unto us. Salvation is a gift. You know what I'm saying? And it's the only way that we would be able to get out of here. So Ezra now he's understanding, like, okay, mercy is the way, okay, out of it. Because we through as a nation, we don't got it. You know what I'm saying?
Cooked.
So yeah, I don't know if you had, that was all the precepts I had, Zaquan. Uh
Hey, we can close out.
okay, Khan. Uh all right, so Lord willing, Abaratazah. All right, that was edifying. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakwadash, double honor to the apostles, and that was a great millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.